Welcome back to the Energy Sovereignty Project and the system here. It's been a while since we've been here. Let me talk a little bit about what's led to an incredibly clean car and a rather strange title for a quick topic. So the focus on this one's going to be basically honesty in the journalism that you see, in the way that other electric vehicles are presented. So what wound up happening was that I had an online conversation with a friend of mine, and the topic came up about Tesla's supercharging network and how I felt that that was a moat that Tesla had dug around the company quite successfully, and that their vehicles were able to use that charging infrastructure in a way that no other vehicle was able to do. And so that's what sparked this this debate. And so what happened is that he called me on the carpet for talking about something that I knew nothing about. Well, okay, even if by some freak of nature there was some advancement that some other automobile manufacturer had made that I was unaware of, I'm thinking that I'm at least half informed of what's going on. The Tesla half. I understand where the state of the art is, and Tesla has set the bar quite high. So the discussion ensued about the EVgo chargers and the especially the Electrify America chargers, and the way that the Mustang Mach E integrated with those. And he said that the Mach E was able to do what the Tesla was. And so I was actually pleasantly shocked. So again, anybody who's approaching this technology honestly and courageously, you'll hear me use that phrase quite a bit, is going to be honest about what happened. They're going to give credit where credit is due, and they're going to admit when they're wrong. We'll have a video later on, probably in a day or two after I finish compiling it all. Every time I feel like I'm ready to release the video on Aptera and Lightyear, they do something else that's ridiculous, but I get into that a little bit later about when we discuss more about honesty in how these things are actually presented. So I was overjoyed that I might be wrong about the Mustang Mach E, but what I wasn't quite overjoyed about was the obvious anti-Tesla bias that this automotive journalist, he has a YouTube channel and he focuses on electric vehicles. I was going to mention his name, but I'm not now, because obviously I'm not here to sling poo at anybody. I'm just trying to get an issue corrected. So his anti-Tesla bias is based on some poor experiences that he had with Tesla's service when he owned one. And again, that's going to happen. Your exposure to any product is going to vary, and yeah, maybe you're going to come up with certain biases depending on how you feel that you were treated and how you should have been treated and all that, and that's fine. But please, if you're going to then discuss something that has a metric, that has something that is quantifiable, then be honest about that. And again, give credit where credit is due, even if you don't much care for the brand. And more important even than that, don't try and tear down the other brands by pretending that another vehicle is better or can do something that the other one can't, when it clearly can't. Now, here's the issue that I have with this. So he called me on the carpet in a very kind of a public way, which is fine, whatever. But the way that he did it was kind of interesting, and that was what we see a lot, is that argument to authority. Now, initially, when he described himself as a automotive journalist and then was going to drop that those credentials on me, I take that to heart. When somebody comes on the channel and talks about something that's engineering related, and then they honestly show that they are in the industry and have something to say about it, I hold that in very high regard. And I research that, and if something turns out that I've gotten something wrong, I'll crow over it, and I want to then bring that to you guys and make sure that we get that corrected. So when he said what he said in that way, my initial response to that was, oh, now I'm going to have to rent a Mustang Mach E and eat crow over the way that it parses the charging stations. And felt very bad about that. Immediately went and found a vehicle on Turo. Did the chest grab because it's a new vehicle, right? You know, so obviously it's not something that you're just going to go into Hertz and rent. But so I found one on Turo and was making the preparations to go ahead and rent that and do a full apology review on this, and again mentioned his name, saying, oh, well, you know, this person pointed this out to me, and that, you know, this, for all the other things that the Mustang Mach E may have against it. If folks have been watching all of the fantastic teardown videos that Sandy Monroe has been doing on that vehicle. If you haven't seen that, I'd highly recommend that you go ahead and check out his channels. And so there were a lot of things that the Mustang E got right, and very many things that it got wrong. And so I was really looking forward to renting one of these, driving it around, and showing how it was coming up to par with Tesla in the way that it parsed its charging data. Well, like I said, when I hear things from people that have experience in these things, I tend to do a lot of research on that, because that's where my curiosity leads, especially if it's something that I'm wrong about. I'll research the hell out of something that I might be wrong about. So it's a good thing I did. So I've included some videos in the description bar here showing how the Mustang Mach E's trip system works in the real world. Thank God I found some of these videos before I spent all that money renting a Mustang Mach E. And that leads us to the very interesting title of this video. And that is because I did not rent the Mustang Mach E. I wound up going and having my car detailed. So, honesty. One of the things that he accused me of was talking about something, like I said, that I knew nothing about. Well, I'm going to turn that around, and I'm sure that he'll see this video. I may even wind up seeing him this coming weekend, which was one of the other reasons why I detailed the car this weekend. You may have seen Eli Burton on the channel from time to time, good friend of mine. He sets up this group called My Tesla Adventure, and they're actually having a group get-together down in San Luis Obispo this coming weekend. Hope you guys can make it. It'll be a lot of fun to maybe meet some of the folks that are local that watch the channel. Hopefully this will get out in enough time to be able to allow you to make some plans for this coming weekend. But I'm hoping that this gentleman sees this and watches those videos and understands that he was criticizing me while not knowing what he was talking about. And as an automotive journalist, I'm going to hold him to greater task on that than I would just anybody who bothered to just mention it as an aside. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about the Mach E and what was said, and we'll talk a little bit also about the Electrify America chargers. So he was saying that the Mach E was able to now parse the chargers in route planning. Now, credit where credit's due. It can actually do that. It does do that. Now, even in the early days when Tesla was able to do the route planning, when they'd finally got enough superchargers available so that you were able to actually do true route planning, that was job one for the Tesla supercharger network. Now, when you see the Mach E do that same calculation, the one thing that you will see in these videos that it cannot do, or does not cannot do, excuse me, let me back up. Words have meaning. That it does not do. It's not that it cannot do it, it doesn't do it yet. Okay. What it doesn't do is it doesn't take into account elevation changes. That's a huge problem. It also does not do a very good job of calculating the exact amount that the vehicle will have when it gets to that charging station. Now, obviously, there's going to be some wiggle room there. The car doesn't know how fast or slow you're going to drive. It's not psychic. All it can do is adjust its calculations as best it can on the fly to give you that accurate number when you actually get to your destination. And that's really, really important, because if it doesn't give you that piece of information, then you're going to start guessing. And you're going to start guessing wrong. And if the vehicle is continuously showing you that it's 15–20% more, arriving with more charge than it's telling you it's going to have, then you're going to start chopping that down, and eventually, because it doesn't calculate the elevation changes, you're going to wind up being wrong in a terrible way at some point. So enough harping on that. But the other thing that was in the discussion, the main part, the meat of the discussion, was that Tesla, because it is a closed system, in other words, it doesn't have to deal with any outside suppliers. It is its own network. It's able to do things natively that are going to be very difficult for Electrify America and the other chargers to do with a third-party supplier of vehicles. Not impossible, but they're not there yet. And that is that with that communication, because it's a sealed network, the car has the ability to go ahead and look at which chargers are occupied. Tesla, I'll pull up this screenshot here, it'll show you how many spots there are, how many spots are available, how many spots are disabled due to maintenance or what have you. And then these that have, if you look closer, you see the little clock. That's a little clock icon that covers them. That means that they're all in use and there may be a wait. And so as you're driving, you can actually then look at these and on the fly decide how much miles you have on the car and whether or not you can short or long one of your charging stops to go ahead and get past some difficulty. So he was arguing that the Mach E can do that. It clearly can't do that. It cannot communicate with the Electrify America stations or the EVgo stations. It doesn't know which ones are occupied, which ones are available. And to make matters worse, once you get to, especially the Electrify America stations, there is no guarantee that any of those stations are going to work or are going to work with your car. The Mach E still has huge software errors. There are still huge communications difficulties between the car. You may wind up getting there and not be able to charge, or not be able to charge at the speed you think you can. And so that's an issue on a long trip. It's a ding. And so instead of owning that and saying, okay, well, no, you're right, you know, that there's still ways to go, I don't know what I'm talking about. So that was unfortunate. But so let's talk also a little bit about folks that really do seem to have this nailed and really do have the research down, and that is, again, credit where credit is due. So now you know. Those guys, Zach and Jesse, they really, I really enjoy their show. I like videos that are kind of on the long format anyway, and the two guys are funny, and so some people enjoy the way they present it, some don't. That one thing you can't say is that they haven't really done deep dives into all of this. Now, there's a recent video by them where they do talk about the Electrify America chargers. Now, I saw this video after I had had this conversation with this other gentleman, and so I knew that Volkswagen Group had put a whole bunch of money. I didn't even know the exact dollar amount on it, because as I was trying to research that number kept changing in ways that I felt that I didn't want to present. But it was higher than what I had thought. It's a little over $1 billion that Volkswagen Group put into the Electrify America system. Now, here's an Electrify America charger, and what you'll notice right off the bat on this is that they made a very odd choice. So it'd certainly not be the way that I would recommend to move forward. Again, in terms of process engineering and what I know about human nature. It's got a screen on it. It's got a screen on it. Really? So the vandals are going to have a field day with these, as more and more electric vehicles become ubiquitous in their daily life, some people are going to be mad. They're going to wind up wanting to take their frustrations out on some of the infrastructure. I already know that's going to happen. Hell, we designed human-machine interfaces, HMIs, on the machines in the warehouse or in the factory that we designed, and we had vandals taking it out on them. So our clever bit is that, yeah, you can go ahead and take it out on any one single screen or whatever, but all of those screens communicate with one another, and so you can actually call up any machine from any HMI, and you can actually control that machine. So even though its HMI screen is destroyed, you'll still be able to call up that equipment. Now, Electrify America, if you are listening, you had better hire me right now, somebody like me, to go through all of this and try and figure out how you are going to allow your interface to be more easily accessed on the phone or in the vehicle, so that you can call up on the phone what your car is doing as far as its state of charge, how fast it's charging, all of that, without having to go through the screen on the system. Now, here's one other interesting thing that I found. Now, I'm praying that I'm wrong on this, but I don't think I am. In the video that we have in the description bar, here's a screenshot from that where he's charging his car. Now, note, the screen here, does that really say stop the charge? Can somebody really come up to that screen, poke a button, and stop somebody's charge? Is that really possible? Please tell me that's not possible. So there's a ways to go in all of this. Now, we spoke about the $1 billion that was infused into the infrastructure. Now, Tesla has spent God knows how much on their supercharger network, but they've done that by at least doing some calculation as far as how much they're getting per vehicle and how much they're going to be able to expand their supercharger network with that inflow of cash. And they're also able to, in real time, look at how much this system is costing them in repairs. On a daily basis, they know exactly at any given point how many are up, how many are down, how much they spent in man hours to go ahead and repair those stations. And so you can plug all of that data into Tesla's computer, and you wind up having an immediate understanding of what exactly this thing is costing you. Electrify America? I don't know, probably not so much. But the one biggest thing that was disturbing about Electrify America was what Zach and Jesse pointed out, and that was Volkswagen Group is already looking at selling the Electrify America network. Why? Well, because they put their money into it. They were asked to do this, and they set it up, and now they think they can just go ahead and wash their hands of the network, as though they weren't responsible for actually setting up a network and keeping it running. Why? Well, apparently, Zach and Jesse did some digging, and they're not actually responsible for keeping it running, which should have been a major part of their settlement. That would have also meant that they wouldn't have done things so stupid, that they would have taken greater care in selecting a charger that was not going to be able to be messed with so much with the from outside, from vandals or whatnot, that would be more robust in the way that it sets up its charging. Again, watch those videos that we have linked here. The Mustang Mach E, charging it is still a bit of a nightmare. I can't imagine having to go through that every time I have to charge. And they also have a thing called plug and charge, where you just plug it in and then it automatically starts to charge. Watch carefully. You know, he plugs it in, and then he still has to go back over to the machine, fiddle with it, push a button, and then then it was probably maybe a third of the time that would actually start to charge the car, much less at the power that it was rated at. The reason that he stopped, because that was another thing that was kind of cool, agreeably, is that when he's able to do his route planning on board, on the Mustang Mach E now, mind you, he's actually able to select only high-powered chargers. I thought that was pretty cool. And again, obviously, that's the Tesla also will show you all of the capabilities of the chargers that you're selecting. I'll pull up a screenshot here and you can kind of see that. But the point here is that the bar has been set pretty high by Tesla, and that even if you are anti-Tesla for whatever reason, you have a short position or this or that, whatever, be honest about what it is that they're capable of doing. Give credit where credit is due. And again, as you watch this channel, as other electric vehicles mature, I will be doing the same. I will give that credit where credit is due. And I will most certainly hold their feet to the fire where it is also appropriate to do so, in terms of things like the Aptera and Lightyear. Lightyear just did a test where they basically hypermiled a vehicle around a track, an average speed of 54 miles an hour. I can remember Bjorn doing that with one of his vehicles. Granted, his speed was a little bit slower. I think he found that his maximum efficient speed was, for that vehicle, I think it was like 42 or 48 miles an hour. You guys can comment if you've seen that video and correct me. But hypermiling a vehicle is nothing new. We want to see what these vehicles will do as they increase in speed to highway speeds. That's what we're really kind of interested in. But at any rate, I'm not going to harp on that because we have another video coming up with those two vehicles. But the focus of this is honesty. Approach this honestly and courageously. For those other folks that are doing YouTube videos, be willing to admit when you're wrong, and don't try and hype up vehicles by giving them traits that they clearly don't have yet. So with that said, I'm going to get back to work, to putting everything back into my incredibly clean car. I hope that folks will join us at San Luis Obispo this coming weekend, and I think it's the 17th, I believe, and we'll see you then.